I never thought I'd be saying this, but I caught my grandparents in the middle of something so unexpected, it changed how I viewed love forever. It was supposed to be a simple visit to my grandparents' house for the weekend. I had just finished my first semester at college, overwhelmed with deadlines and loneliness. Home felt like a distant dream. My parents were out of the country, and I hadn't been back to our small-town family house in months. My grandfather, Edward Carter, was a retired Navy officer. Stern, organized, and stoic. My grandma, Eleanor Carter, was his opposite, soft-spoken, gentle, and loved flowers more than anything else in the world. Growing up, I had rarely seen them even hold hands. They were old school, kind, respectful, but distant. At least that's what I thought. I arrived Friday evening. The house smelled of cinnamon cookies and lavender. Grandma greeted me with her warm arms and her usual, "You've lost weight again, sweetheart." Grandpa just nodded from the porch, where he sat reading the newspaper. Typical. Later that night, I was getting ready for bed in the guest room when I realized I had left my phone charger in the living room. The lights were off, but I tiptoed through the hallway. That's when I heard it, soft laughter. A kind I had never heard from my grandfather. Curious, I peeked through the slightly ajar door. There they were. My grandparents, sitting side by side on the couch, the fireplace casting warm golden shadows over them. But it wasn't just the sight of them together. It was how they were sitting. Grandma's hand was resting gently on Grandpa's chest. He leaned in and kissed her temple. Soft, loving, like young lovers. And then, she whispered something that made my heart skip. "I still remember the night you proposed. You were so nervous. Your hands were shaking like a leaf." Grandpa chuckled. "You almost said no. I thought I'd drop dead right there. I only hesitated because I couldn't believe someone like you would choose me." Grandpa turned to her, cupping her face. "You've always been my only choice, Eleanor." I stood frozen. My heart swelled. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I couldn't look away. There was something magnetic about the way they looked at each other. Something I had never noticed growing up. I had always assumed their love was quiet, settled, maybe even worn out. But in that moment, I saw a fire that hadn't gone out. Then Grandpa did something I never thought I'd witness. He leaned in and kissed Grandma. Not a peck, not a polite touch, but a slow, tender kiss filled with decades of emotion. Her hand ran through his silver hair as she melted into him. It wasn't just romantic. It was passionate. It was beautiful. I quietly tiptoed back to my room, heart pounding, face flushed. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That night, I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was that kiss, that moment. The vulnerability, the connection, the raw intimacy. The next morning, I tried to act normal. Grandma made waffles and Grandpa read the newspaper like always. But I kept sneaking glances, wondering how long that side of them had been hidden. Later that day, I found Grandma in the garden trimming roses. "Grandma," I started softly, "can I ask you something?" She looked up with a smile. "Of course, honey. How did you and Grandpa fall in love?" She paused, then wiped her hands on her apron and sat beside me on the bench. "It wasn't love at first sight," she said. "Your grandfather was my brother's best friend. Always loud and full of himself. But one night during the war, he wrote me a letter from overseas. It was the most honest thing anyone had ever written to me. He told me he was scared, that he missed home, and that the only person who made him feel calm was me." I listened closely, heart fluttering. He came back with a limp and a medal. But I didn't fall for the hero. I fell for the man who sat next to me under the stars, asking me about my dreams, who kissed my scars and never tried to fix them, only loved them. "Do you still feel that way?" I asked, eyes wide. Grandma blushed, actually blushed, even more than before. "Love doesn't grow old, sweetheart. If anything, it gets bolder." That evening, after dinner, I helped Grandpa clean the dishes. He wasn't much of a talker, but that night, he said something that caught me off guard. "You saw us last night, didn't you?" My hands froze in the sink. I didn't mean to. I just went for my charger." He smiled, eyes crinkling. "It's all right. Surprised you, huh?" I nodded. "Yeah, a lot." He dried a plate slowly, We never stopped loving each other, you know. But life gets busy. Kids, jobs, health stuff. It's easy to forget to show love. Until one day you realize the clock is ticking. So now, I try not to waste a single night without reminding her how beautiful she is. I swallowed a lump in my throat. You should never wait, he added. When you find the right one, hold them like every moment is your last. That weekend changed me. I had gone home thinking love was something that faded over time. That passion belonged only to youth. That affection was reserved for the beginning chapters, not the later ones. But my grandparents proved me wrong. They weren't just together. They were still in love. After 50 years. After struggles. After aging. They held hands on the porch swing like teenagers. They danced to old records in the kitchen. They kissed when they thought no one was watching. And I watched. Not with embarrassment, but awe. That Sunday, as I packed to leave, Grandma hugged me tight. Come back soon, sweetheart. We love having you here. I will, I said. You both taught me more in one weekend than I've learned all semester. On the drive back to college, I felt lighter, braver, hopeful. Because love wasn't what the movies made it out to be. It wasn't grand gestures or Instagram stories. It was silent moments. Shared laughter. A gentle kiss after decades together. That week, I started writing a story. About two people. A sailor and a flower girl. Who never stopped choosing each other. Who kept their love alive in quiet corners and late-night cuddles. I submitted it to the campus magazine. It became the most read piece of the semester. Because deep down, everyone is looking for a love that doesn't fade. A love that stays hot, even when the hair turns silver and the skin grows wrinkled. And I had caught it. Right there in my grandparents' living room. Love, real, tender, breathtaking love, still lived there. And now I believe it can live anywhere. Even in me. Even in you.